Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. I welcome everyone who's joined me today and into this interactive webinar about the uLawPractice's mobile app with specific focus today on the iOS platform that we've most recently released to the iOS store. But for the audience that have actually requested, we want to also see if there's enough time to showcase to you the Android platform as well. But in general, we do today have the uLaw app available to you both on the Android as well as the iOS store. And let's walk through how you can maximize the use of the platform across both your web platform as well as the mobile app. Okay. And that today's webinar is not accredited for any CPD hours. Our CPD webinar for this month is actually going to be next Friday about legal expense management. We have requested or have put forward our content to be approved for CPD hours for this particular webinar, but has not been approved yet. So today's session is going to be yet another fun-filled demo session where I can show you how the product works, which is many times much cooler than me just talking and putting you folks to sleep, right? So the agenda, like every other uLaw webinar, today's webinar is an agenda. We're going to talk about, contact management, really the understanding of how the uLaw app works. So you spend a lot of your time doing some of the core heavy lifting within your browser-based version of uLaw, right? Whether it's on your phone, iPad, or laptop, or desktop, right? And then there's this completely app environment, which is very native to the platform, which has a very different look and feel to it. The purpose of the app is different. It's for just-in-time information and for doing some quick, handy things that you can do, including docket time. We're going to look at that. So matter management is going to be how you can add docket as well. We'll look at how the access to accounting information is available to you, readily available to you in your app. We'll look at how you can synchronize the calendar and how you can manage the analytics of these contacts and matters. Okay, so that's everything we're going to be talking about from an app's perspective. And believe it or not, that's all the agenda from a presentation that I wanted to run with you today, because this by itself is going to take the time for me to show you, log in into my demo site, right, and kind of walk you through how this works. So to begin with, let me log in into my fictitious legal accounting uLaw account for Roger Moore as I start to get our friends in. So again, going back to the agenda for today, it's primarily focusing on kind of the two-way street, if you will, the connection between your uLaw experience from from a web experience, right? How you can, you're used to a certain way of using uLaw today on the web experience, and our goal is to supplement that or complement that as a sidekick with our uLaw app, which is available to you on the Android as well as the iOS store. Okay? And we'll also talk about the features that you currently have with iOS today. Alrighty, so before I get started, I still want to be able to showcase my Android app to you. So if you can just bear with me for a quick second here. Perfect. I think I got it. So I basically have, obviously I can't show you my phone, but I've kind of got a reflection of that here. I've got another virtual play for you to show within my iOS phone. So imagine this is to be your iOS. I hope this works. Otherwise, that would be not so great. There you go. So that's your basically your login into your iOS platform. It's the same username password that you would use, right, to log in into your web version. With Roger Moore, the uLawPractice account, pretty much the same one here. Make sure that, let me choose the appropriate domain. If I were to show it to you like that, that's truly a comparison, if you will, of my two different environments. Got the Android platform on the right-hand side here. Let me annotate that. So this is truly my Android platform, right? This is connected to my Samsung phone. I can basically log out. Okay, so it's got the same experience, and you can type in the same username and password, uLawPractice. I hope you're able to see this. Do use the chat window if you have any questions or if you're not able to see this properly. I'm going to use the same EDU version of it. And let me sign in into my uLawPractice account. There you go. And I'm going to do the same thing here as well with my iPhone. Okay. Kind of the same concepts. You've got the same clients. You've got A1 Paralegal Firm, right? A2 Taxi. Now that's as good as all of your contacts. The database obviously is coming in from right within the uLaw database, right? It really comes down to where you're adding this information from. Okay. So one of the first steps is obviously contacts. So I'll show you how you can now use our little plus symbol here to add clients. So you can say create new contact or import existing. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new contact. So let's say you're at the courthouse and you just basically want to quickly say, I'm going to put that in there, right? Yeah, just like that. I'm just going to go ahead and click save. You can obviously add more information as you like, and it's going to obviously quickly refresh. It's going to bring in Mr. Abhidir Singh. And if I will go back and look at how it reflects my web experience, you're going to see Abhidir Singh show up here as well. Okay, maybe give it a couple of seconds to sync up. And that's as simple, and I know I'm kind of running into this, but here's Mr. Abhidir Singh. So let's say it's a quick, really fast client intake, right? You basically went to your iOS phone, you hit this little plus symbol on your clients. It's the same set of menu options that you have both across your iOS as well as your Android experience on the right-hand side. You've got the clients, you've got the matter, the accounts, calendar, and you get the opportunity to log out, right? Same experience. So you can click on Abhidir Singh specifically. You can do the same thing here. Get specific information about that individual. Okay. Now, it's a two-way street, so you can actually have your assistant or yourself later at night if you're using it to actually go ahead and just, beef up the information, really. If it's a client referral, well, you could have got all this information right from the app too, but I'm just trying to show you how it works. So once you save that contact, you give it a couple of seconds, obviously, for the networks to work, to sync in. And once you jump back in, and let's say I go back into my contacts, I think I know I'm just going around the same information. So there you go, 91 King Street right there. Okay, information that you didn't have before. And I'll do the same thing here. And hopefully it's refreshed enough. There you go. And you can click on the map, and that would pretty much bring up your local iOS map information for that particular address, right? Simple, simple. The ability for you to create a contact which was available to you originally on your Android app is now available to you on your iOS app as well. So that's really the big push, if you will. One of the big pushes is the whole plus symbol. Fantastic. So what else? Within our Android app, you can basically import contacts too. You have this additional option, which we're working to bring into our clients, or maybe it's already there. So there you go. It's the import existing. It's the same concept here. You can import a contact right off your phone book too. Okay? So let's see, if already have that information in your phone book, you can bring that information into uLaw as simple as clicking import existing. Now, we wanted to focus our attention. That's, so we talked about import contacts, so we'll do it. So it's going to say, I'd like to access your local contacts. You're like, all right, that's cool. Oh, my apologies. It's going to hit the plus symbol, the import existing. I'm going to say, all right, I want Daniel. All his information is here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. Now, I think there's a quick question about how you manage it with Outlook as the contact manager. As long as the contacts are available on your phone, right, regardless of whether it's a SIM phone contact or whether it's your local device contact or the Outlook manager, regardless, as long as it's on your phone, you are able to import it into uLaw. Okay? So yes, I think the quick answer is yes, you are able to do so. The bottom line is you obviously have to pick and choose which area your contact is from. Yeah, thank you. That's pretty cool. Obviously, adding a client, and this is one of the most important, but the simplistic of things, but the most important thing that our clients were asking for. They're at a courthouse. They're basically at a party. They just met a client who just wants to retain them. It's hard for them to be able to go into uLaw and browser version and add that contact. Our roadmap for going forward is also to scan or integrate with scanners, visiting card or business card scanners, so you can scan just like how you were able to import contacts. You can basically take a picture of a business card and just scan that in as an address into uLaw. That's very much in our immediate roadmap as well, just so you know. Perfect. So we looked at how you can quickly import contacts right off your phone, and we showed it to you from both iOS and I think there's a bit of leap of faith. We did a demo a couple of weeks back where I showed it how you could do the same concept with your Android phone as well. Alrighty then. Then we move on to our matter management, right? So in the iOS version that you had till about the last release, you were able to review all of the matter information. Okay, you were able to consume it. It was kind of a one-way street. You can choose now. You can basically use the scroll within iPhone to go ahead and choose your contact. Okay, but now I've got this particular client, a Bay, and he's basically got an LATB matter, right? Same concept here. Same concept here as well. So let me just go search for Bay. Just going to go back into this matter. and just show it to you right within the familiar web experience that you know. While I'm at it, let me just go ahead and put a docket in. I'll just say initial client interview, the client at my office. And let's say that happened earlier this week. Okay, might as well put a docket as well. Once that information is saved here, let's go and look at Abe. Oops, sorry, that was the contact. I'm going to hit Matter. You can see obviously the experience is slightly different, purely based on whether it's the iOS or the Android app. And this is what I said is very native to the experience that each of these devices provide you. I'm going to choose to EDU. I'm going to hit Login. Okay. So you can basically, within the iOS, it's pretty cool how you can basically just scroll. It has a very native experience to it. You can basically just use your finger and scroll and get to, if you click on it, you basically scroll through it to Obey. Whereas in the Android version, obviously, it's the old school drop down. Same information regardless. You've got the client interview. If I were to click on this, you've got the client interview as well. Okay. Now the cool part is obviously, okay. It's got that native experience, right? So this is a brand new piece of information. You've not even invoiced this client. So you see the information flow of the question mark is very different. The experience is different. With this, you've got, a slider with the Android version, the same piece of information. It's got a slider, whereas the iPhone has a different experience. But you can swipe on both apps regardless, okay? Now, within the iOS app, you obviously have the information, all of the events that have happened, the parties, all your additional parties, and the rates that you're using for different counsels or legal counsels or other individuals involved. So if I were to go into my information, it's got the very high-level file number, the title. You can add a court file number, any description about the matter. But the new feature in iOS is the ability to click on this little clock and say, court meeting. Okay? And you can say, I want to bill this guy 12 minutes. You can say, oh, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just going to say, met at court, docket from iPhone, and basically hit the tick symbol. This matter docket added successfully. Let's check that out here in the Android phone. Obviously hasn't shown up there. Let's quickly refresh it. I hope technology works. There's Mr. Abe. Let's give it a couple of seconds. Maybe it's refreshed it here. Okay. It's loading the contact matters. And there you go. It says, met at court, docket from iPhone, that 12 minutes that you docketed using iOS for that particular matter works, right? Technology does work, which is good. let me reflect it on the, I just realized that some of our clients actually use both iOS and the Android. So that was something that was pretty new to me out of a demo that we had today. That's why I'm kind of going back and forth, and I do apologize for running between these two devices. Though the main intention of the webinar was to showcase iOS, I thought I'll take the opportunity to showcase to you the differences in the two platforms and the nativity that these two platforms provide you, right? So even if you are in the choice of making, which product to use, as I said, some of our clients use both, and there you go. You've got both the initial client interview, and you've got the court meeting with the billable type as well. Okay. So that was a big part of what we wanted to accomplish by showing you how you can add docket. Now you're also able to import dockets, right? I think we looked at how, I'll show it to those who want to. I can import an incoming call as a telephone conversation that I just had. Basically say, that seems a bit too much. I'll just say the 6 minutes. I'll go and add the docket, so you can basically import that 6-minute docket right out of a phone conversation that you had on your phone. So let's say you call your client, right? Now you can use the import option, whether it's in the Android phone or within the iOS. Basically import that phone conversation as a docket, if that suits your business situation. Okay? So you can either add a docket on the fly, basically just by entering information with your fingers, or if you made a phone conversation, you can import that phone call right into your device. So let's refresh it on your web experience, and you should see the phone conversation. Obviously, we put in quite a bit of the information that we know, but you can then remove what you don't need, tweak this, right? Duration, whatever time. If you're charging them 6 minutes, maybe you just type that in. And you can always tweak those dockets. And I know there's a question that's coming up, and this was asked in our previous webinar as well. We still do not have the opportunity for you to generate an invoice out of our app, but that is certainly in our roadmap, just like how I mentioned about the business card being able to scan as an add contact feature. We are very seriously looking at how we can give you the feature and the flexibility to actually go one step further from just adding a docket to now going to generate an invoice. Obviously, we're working through the different form factors, the different use cases, so that we can give you a seamless experience. That's one of the challenges that we have with the simulators, that you do have to log in every, 5 to 10 minutes. I apologize for that inconvenience. But hopefully this has kind of given you a very high-level view what this new app feature and experience provides you, and the convenience that it provides you as a legal professional. So not only can you now import contacts or add new contacts right off your phone, especially your iOS phone, you can now also add dockets right out of your phone as well. Okay? You just have to go into the particular matter, choose the client, choose the matter, and by default it comes into events. You click on information and use the clock window to add your dockets or import it. Okay? And the events would obviously show you the various different dockets that have happened. So you've got your client interview, phone conversation, court meeting. Now, obviously, the next information that we want to show you after we've been able to add contact, add matters, is basically the ability, to look at your accounting information. Okay. Yet another big-time roadmap ticket item would be the ability for us to now allow you to bring in, documents, which we looked at how we integrate with Google Drive to bring in all of your documents. But today, we're able to give you all the access to your information from your phone. Okay, so if you look at your Pool Trust account, you look at, by date, the different activities that have actually happened, the $500 that was taken out, the retainer of $500 that just went in for Mr. Henry Gonzalez. So this is the same information. Okay. And there you go. By date, right? So this was what happened earlier today in a demo on the 16th of February. I had a $500 retainer for a client, Henry, and then was also done a trust transfer. The in and out, the ins being in green, the outs or the withdrawals being in red, and it's a very similar experience in your Android platform as well. So if I were to go into my Pool Trust account, you've got the ins in green and the outs in red. Difference is we wanted to kind of differentiate the black and white, if you will. So that's why the Android is kind of a black and the iOS is in white. If I were to click on the particular retainer, it also gives you a little pop-up and gives you all the information. So on the 16th of February, the description was the retainer or the file or the matter number HG761086, and he paid you via check 66665, and that's the running balance. Obviously, this is a demo site, so don't be scared. And that was the the debit value or whatever was deposited into it. And if I were to click on this, it gives you also the information about why that $500 was transferred, which was a trust transfer, which included an application fee for a specific invoice number 2816, which included a legal fee as well as a disbursement. Okay? Again, same experience as you see here. If you look at your Pool Trust account, you've got that 500 coming in, 500 leaving, right? You know where it came from, where it went, right? Same experience, but in a more amplified version. You can just click on it and you can just drag your mouse or use your finger to swipe up. Basically, this is a swipe up and this is a swipe down, and you can group it by date. You can even choose a specific date. You can say, I want anything that happened on the 15th. Okay? And this would be for all of your accounts. So you've got your trust account as good as the drop down that you have here within your web experience. Trust account. Again, this is a demo site, so you've got all the different accounts that's listed here. And then in addition to accounts, you obviously have the assets, liabilities, capital, revenue, and expense accounts. And these are just the different categories. If you want to really look at your expense accounts real quick, you can look at that. You've got your real salaries, any rent expenses that you've had. You can have a quick look at that. On the 9th, you actually had an $884 rent. And these are the categories that you've created for yourself. I mean, these are also categories that you can actually go and create. For example, office supplies. Maybe it's looking for a specific date. Okay? These are just the different categories that you've created for yourself as part of the expenses. We've broken down the different accounts by the categories. That's all we've done. Same thing here as well. Assets, liabilities, capital, revenue, expenses. Okay. Perfect. So we've kind of looked at the top three items. We've looked at contact management, how you can add a docket in both iOS as well as Android. We've looked at how you can review information in accounting. And our next step, and for those who've been with us for a while and you've seen us grow and evolve as a product, 8 months back or 6 months back, we were talking about just viewing information on the app. Within the last, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks, we've improved quite a bit to bring some of these features into the app as well. The next cool thing I would talk about is the calendar. So if I were to look at my uLaw and jump into the Abadiol matter, I basically had on the 12th the client interview, right? If I were to choose my 12th, there it is, the initial client interview, right? I've got that same thing right within my calendar. These are other dockets that I have. And basically I can synchronize this with my local calendar. And the dots just represent real quick how many such events that you have per calendar. So you've got one event on the 14th. You obviously have 3 events or more than 3 within this particular date, 3 or more. On the 11th, there was obviously no events, so that's kind of the idea, right? Two events as well. You've got the client interview. There's the session that we had today. Let's docket it. The same concept with my calendar here. I could now synchronize this with my local, I can actually add a docket too. Or I can synchronize it with my local calendar. And if I were to choose a date, the 16th, here's the same client interview. Obviously, the iOS looks, a lot more neater, I would say. We are changing our calendar view on our Android app pretty soon. So this is the same interview for Mr. Henry Gonzalez, which is the telephone conversation that I have here. Okay. Now, this is a more recent question that was asked by one of our clients about, instead of having to, let's say I had a docket that I needed to do for a client, instead of actually going into the matter, choosing the client, and then doing it, is there a faster way to do that? And the quick answer has always been using the calendar, because the calendar really gives you the capability to add a docket. I don't know if many of you knew this, but let's say I needed a docket to be added today for my 10 a.m. I can actually go directly into my calendar, click on the time for which I want to docket, and I can basically say phone conversation, right? And I can say on today from 10 a.m. for 30 minutes. Now I can basically add it to a particular matter, okay? And this way you can actually have multiple dockets done across matters, and you don't even have to go into the matter screen to do so. So for Abadiol, you can go ahead and say, for his LATV matter, I want to add that docket. And you can do it right from your calendar in today's uLaw's web experience as well. And if I went back into my matter, I will notice that I had that phone conversation docket today. Okay? Likewise, you have the same feature. Darn it. The pretty much same feature and flexibility to add a docket, not specific to a matter, but you can do it right from your calendar too. That way you can actually exercise the ability to catch up on any of your dockets across matters. That's pretty, I would say it's pretty empowering to do that. Right, so if I were to go here, I see this clock here within my calendar. You would see the same thing within your iOS as well. if I were to click on that little clock, it's basically going to ask me the title, which client was this for, right? So you can choose Bay Dual, LATV Matter. You can dock a title. And basically, you can use the iPhone's native drag and drop, right? Okay. And basically, you dock it from your calendar specific to a matter that you choose, right from your calendar. If I went into my 15th, I'm going to see those different dockets, including document review, and the one we had for a Bay. Okay. And the same thing, as you should expect, would reflect here as well. So that's something very important to keep in mind, that you are able to dock it, obviously within the matter, but you can actually dock it for many such matters right out of your calendar, both on your web version today, as well as your iOS and Android version as well. Okay. And last but not the least, you can synchronize it with your phone, so you can then take advantage of the phone's calendar as well once you've synchronized it. So once you synchronize the uLaw app, you can synchronize it with your phone's app. That way you can make the local phone work for you. Okay. I can maybe quickly show you that as well within my Android app. Okay, so if I were to quickly show you, this is really my Samsung Android calendar. You can see how I've done the synchronization with the telephone conversation that happened for the slip and fall issue. And this would actually kick in my Samsung's notification engine. So this would show up in my calendar and would notify me before and or after. So you can basically plan out your calendar within uLaw, right? Set up your whole day, week, month. Obviously, this is a pretty exhaustive month. There you go. You can do so, and plan it out ahead of time. And then you can synchronize that with your phone's app. So, for example, a great example is a court date. You can set it up in uLaw as it pertains to a matter. You can set it up as an event in your calendar. You can say, remind me that on the 19th or the 20th, I have a court date to attend to. And if you synchronize this with your phone, you can now say, I want reminders 2 days ahead of time or 3 days ahead of time. That way you don't miss out on a court date. Okay? Alrighty then. And the last but not the least is really the analytics within the contact and the matter, right? So if I were to quickly jump in, and it's not as powerful as the full capability of our analytics engine that we have here, but these are quick pieces of information that are very meaningful and just in time. Okay, that's available to you even on your phone's app. So if I went ahead and generated that invoice, okay, let's say your assistant did this for you. It's about $150 worth of money that can be made. Once that has been invoiced, if I go back to my matter, and go into the LATB matter. So if you look at the matter analytics, right? So if you go into the question mark, you can look at the uLaw Insight. Now this is available to you on the browser version today, right? You know that. It's invoiced. The number of invoices are 1. We even have a Q&A format for those who didn't know. These are the analytics in the form of a Q&A. You know, what is the invoice of the status? It's invoiced, so it's not been paid yet, right? What is the number of invoices raised? So we've got about 15 or 20 questions that we kind of ask on your behalf. So for those who didn't know it, it's right within your question mark. And this is where you take action to get paid. You also have the uLaw Insight. Very similarly, right within your app, you have this question mark, which brings out the same set of insights and analytics. And I can basically just swipe this, as I told you. Invoiced, I'm just swiping from right to left. That's the total number of invoices. That's the amount, right? Let me show you the experience here as well. Right within the matter, you've got this question mark, the same question mark that you have everywhere else. Choose the matter. All. Same concept. You can swipe from right to left, or you have this little check window for you. Invoice paid, invoice balance, right? Once you've got the payments in, you can put that into uLaw. You can collect it right off your Monera's integration. Let's say they called you or you called them, and you got the information over phone. So you're like, hey, I beg, give me your card number. That's my card number. And I go ahead and process the transaction, and this is done by your assistant or by yourself. You can just report that real quick. Give them a receipt if need be, right? And that automatically, you know, refreshes it at your end. So if you're accessing this on the phone, it pretty much gives you that just-in-time information. There you go. Invoice paid is $158.20. Okay? And there's no balance. You're obviously really happy. That's the just-in-time information that we're giving it to you again now on the power of the app as well. Okay? So just a quick recap. You know, this was again not about rocket science. Thanks to Mr. Musk, even rocket science is not rocket science today. I've said this many times. But this was a simple but still an elegant way of showing you that we're continuing to invest in our clients. We're continuing to expand the product portfolio into the different platforms that are available. So we've started with our web experience, which gives you the full freedom to do what you need. And now we've, I would say, introduced both the iOS and the Android App Store, the capability now for you to add contacts, import contacts from your phone book, making your life a little bit more simpler. We then moved on to the next step where we now give you the capability to add dockets as well as import dockets right off your phone, right? You can now review all of your accounting information right from your phone. You don't need to jump into your laptop if you just needed some quick information about your business, especially your trust account, you wanted to know the balance, or your general account if you want to know what the outstanding is. And if you've done your reconciliation, and if you do that on a regular basis, then you can be rest assured that, you know, uLaw is pretty much on target. It should be a good mirror reflection of your bank account too, right? And we looked at the calendar, how you can synchronize your uLaw events, both personal as well as your legal docket events, from the web version to your app, and then from your app to your local phone, taking advantage of all the notification engine specifics that the individual platforms provide you. And we looked at how court date would probably be a great example for that. And last but not the least, the little analytics about the status of each and every matter Just gives you a quick and easy way for you to scan through what's happened within that matter and if there's any outstanding payments due. The very similar insight that we offer to you on our web version as well. Okay. So with that, my friends, I'll probably pause and would love to take any questions, as I would love this to be a very collaborative way. I do thank for some of the folks that did ask questions earlier on, but I would love to hear from you if you had some feedback or comments. Okay, the question is about the cost of the app. The app is actually free of cost. So if you do have a uLaw account, basically, I think I mentioned this earlier on, so basically whatever credentials that you use to log in into your uLaw account is pretty much the same credentials that you would use here as well, right? So obviously if this is your own account, you would use the APP. If you're using a Playground account like myself, whether it's EDU or staging, you would use that. So there is no cost to purchasing the app. As long as you have a subscription with uLaw, you can download this for free, put in your credentials, and log in. And it should load up all of your client information that is pertinent to your firm. Yeah. Okay. My current version of the iOS app does not allow me to add a docket. Okay, that's a good question. I think the question is that you may have already installed your iOS app on uLaw. We made a new release, I would say, a few weeks back. So what I would recommend is either uninstalling the app that you have, or if you have the capability to update the app, you can do so. So I would request that if either you update the app on your iOS store that you have, right? You can open it and it would say update. You can either do that or just uninstall the app and then reinstall it from the iOS, and you should have the latest version that gives you this flexibility. And yeah, as the support staff has just mentioned, what you should watch out for is the latest version being 6. Okay, am I able to make phone calls right off the phone app? Absolutely, yes. So if I were to click on the phone, it says which number do you want to call. You can basically just call that number because this is connected to your phone. And even better, right? Once you make that phone call, so let's say this is your client, you click on that client's phone, make the phone call, and you can quickly import that phone conversation. So let's say it lasted for 6 minutes or 7 minutes. The phone captures the duration of the phone call, right? And then we're able to quickly import it as a docket for that specific client, for a specific matter. And last but not the least, if we would kindly request if you can give us your feedback, and I've always asked this at the end of all my sessions. We thrive on customer feedback and the feedback from the community. So if there is, this is one of the important feedback we received, is the capability and the ability for us to build it on the iOS platform, and we've done that for you. So we request you to use the Excel sheet that's provided to give us your feedback on, the presentation made, the content, any specifics that we can do to improve ourselves, or any other subject topics that we can cover in our forthcoming demos. Okay, we'll probably give it a couple more minutes for any questions. Oh, there it is. How do I import contacts into uLaw? Okay, that's a good question. I think we'll talk about it from an iOS perspective. We did cover this earlier on. Basically, when you log in into the uLaw iOS app, you have this little plus symbol. On the Android app, you have this little people plus symbol. You click on it. You would import any existing, right? You just need to grant it access. If you're bringing David Taylor's information, you would just click on it, and you would click Save. Okay? And the same thing would reflect here, if that's the question. Yes, that's a good question. So the database remains to be the same. So there's no separate database for the app. That's, yes. So yes, for the app to work, very good question. For the app to work, do we have an offline feature? No, today the app is an online feature. It does need to connect to the core database, right? If I go into my dashboard, it would talk about any recently modified contacts or added contacts, and there's the most recent contact that we just added, right? Right off the import, Mr. Hank, if you noticed, in my uLaw dashboard, it automatically shows it as a recently modified contact. So if you added a contact and your assistant is actually using the browser version, he or she would then right away know, maybe this is what you've done. And maybe you could call her and say, just take a retainer from Mr. Hank. And the best part is you can import, so uLaw gives you the flexibility to import import dockets as well, as old as 6 months. You can go as way back as 6 months to import dockets into uLaw. Once again, I request you to use the Excel sheet provided in the chat window, as well as the email that we probably have sent you. Just give us your feedback. If there isn't any further questions, I will wait for a couple more minutes, and I'll be happy to answer the questions. If not, we'll just call it a day. Okay, I think we have a question around, if I have 2 matters, how do I docket them? Good question. You just have to choose the particular matter, I would think. If I were to look at A1 Paralegal Firm, right? You notice right at the top, it should quickly refresh and tell you the number 3, which really means that there are 3 matters, right? So there's small claims, slip and fall, and paralegal work. So in the web experience, you would obviously jump into the appropriate matter to do so. So let's say you wanted to add to the slip and fall, you do the same thing here as well. You click on A1 Paralegal Firm. Oh, sorry, let me go to the matter. You notice the A1 Paralegal Firm has a drop down and has the 3 different set of matters that you had here. Now I'll use the small claims defense issue, and you would hit the docket button. So yeah, you just have to choose the particular matter name. And the other way you can do that too, and I showed this earlier on, is actually going it via the calendar. So let me show it to you in our iOS now, right? So sometimes, as I said, you don't have to necessarily go into the matter itself. If you know the matter, it's great. If not, you can basically go through it by the calendar as well. So you just want to dock it. You know it's for a client. You can just say, all right, let me just dock it. It's because it's basically time, right? It's related to your calendar. You can say, add a docket. You can basically say, for A1 paralegal firm, for the slip and fall, right? You can see these the three different matters that you have for A1 paralegal firm. So you can do the same thing. You can choose that from there or from the calendar. If I change my A2 taxi, you see the different matters under that changes. If I say ABC paralegal, there's just one particular matter for that client. For AG Lumba, there's a few. Apedio, there's just one, right? So that's how that works. Okay, so I would thank everyone who's joined me today for this webinar and hope yourself have a great, fantastic long weekend. And we'll look forward to seeing you in our next session next Friday. Thank you.